Hello, 你好. Welcome to Mandarin Mama Chitchat. It is where Trista and Yao Yao, two Taiwanese moms, share intriguing conversations with amazing people from all over the world. We're super excited and grateful to have you here, and really hope you enjoy our chit-chat.
Hi, welcome back to Mandarin Mama Chitchat. Your time is so valuable. I'm so glad you are here spending your valuable time with us. Thank you so much for being here. I want to make sure you subscribe to our podcast because we will have a new episode every week with amazing guests and I don't want you to miss it. So make sure you subscribe, you'll get notification. I also want you to go to our show notes after this episode and sign up for our newsletter.
Hi, Jay. Thanks for joining us today from New York. Yao and I are super excited to have you on our episode today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to Mandarin Together. I'm so excited to be here today.
I'm sure it's going to be another great episode. So first to start off, Jay, could you share with us, have you always lived in New York and what you do? And just kind of share with us your story.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Jade, and I am a Chinese language teacher based in New York City. And I've been living here in New York for probably more than 15 years. My family and I, we moved here. Actually, we moved from Taishan, Guangdong, China to Michigan when I was 13 years old. And very quickly after Michigan, we moved to New York City, and it was just easier for my parents to find jobs in the Chinese community here. And ever since then, I just lived here. And yeah, and right now I write some Chinese language books, but I've been taking a little pause since about my last release about 2 years ago, and so now I'm working on some other side projects. But my language school, Inspirlang, is still teaching Chinese here. Yeah. How did you guys find out about me, actually?
Instagram.
Oh, Instagram is a magical place.
Yeah. So you're always very interested in language?
No, actually, this is a really good question. So I only really got into it because of practicality and like being influenced by my friends a lot of friends were born in the US. And when I was in college, I really wasn't studying anything language related. But because of my friends and who I hung out with, and they were all like, oh, Jay, because obviously they knew I know Chinese. So they would ask me questions like, oh, Jade, how do I say this in Chinese? So I want to talk to my parents. Oh, Jade, how do I say this? And how do I text my parents I am going to be home late tonight? And so things like that got me very like curious and very confused. And I thought, wait a second, how do people communicate with their parents like before this? And the question, and actually this is really like what I see is really, it's almost like a glimpse into their everyday life. And a lot of time I'm sure they have found like really more effective ways to communicate that only they have. But I think in general, like a lot of times if they try to make very deep connections and deep conversations is really hard because of the language barrier. So because of that, I started, just teaching my friends and at a coffee shop and at libraries, stuff like that, and slowly grew into what I do today. Yeah.
So are you a school teacher or you have your own, I guess, company?
Right now, I have my own company, so it's called Inspirlang. Yeah. So this is like, yeah, so I teach with Inspirlang, but I started this as a YouTube channel more than 10 years ago. Wait, actually more than 10 years ago. So I really started because, again, my college friend really wanted to learn, and I was like, I don't know what is the most effective way to teach you. Like I could teach you a little bit here and there every, when we come to class, but we don't really see each other that often. And so I started a YouTube channel called Inspirlang. And ever since then, I kind of started putting on some, not looking very professional liking videos, just point and shoot and just me in my living room. But that I was really interested in it and I had a lot of fun. So I continue doing it. Yeah.
You're such a great friend though. Like, I mean, just because your friends had this, like, I guess, need, right? And then you being a friend, want
Yeah.
to be supportive, and you started a
Yeah.
YouTube channel. Like everything's literally from the friend's request, right? Like a personal favor. That's amazing. That's very generous of you.
Oh, thank you. And I think that's also like I don't really get a lot of requests from friends other than this. So like when I have one, I'm like, okay, I think I can do that. So I just start
Mhm.
without thinking too much. I just started and start ahead and do it.
So what language you speak? Because you say
Oh,
you obviously
mhm.
Cantonese, right? So like what
Yeah.
language do you speak?
Yeah. So I grew up speaking Taishanese with my family. So Taishanese and Mandarin is Taishanhua. So Taishan is situated, well, it's located in, very south coastal line of Guangdong. So it's also like early immigrants from the I think 1860s, 1800s. They usually would all come from that specific area because of the gold rush and the building of the Transcontinental Railroad. But my family didn't come for that. It's just like Taishan was historically known for that, and there are a lot of connections. So my family came like way more recent. And so, but yeah, my family and we grew up speaking Taishanese, but because of the media exposure, I also grew up loving Cantonese because of the exposure of Cantonese dramas, like TVB dramas. And so I actually learned Cantonese through TV. So, but then it's actually really funny because I think at this point, I mean, I could, use all three very fluently, but well, all three including Mandarin very fluently. But I think Cantonese is the one that I kind of adore the most because I just like I love the slangs. I love the TVB dramas I watched growing up, and so Mandarin I learned when I started going to school because every student was required to learn Mandarin. Yeah, and then so those are like the three Chinese dialects that I speak, and then English is obviously now I live here, so I also speak English. Yeah. I like how you were waiting for more. I don't really got
So,
that much to offer.
question
Hmm.
about your students right now.
Hmm.
Is it what age range
Hmm.
do you teach?
Yeah, so our classes, we cater toward adult learners. We also do have, children learners, but most of the time they're all adult learners, which is more when I started teaching, I only taught my friends, my peers, so they were my age back then. So yeah, I started off teaching adults and I really enjoyed. So our classes are at least group classes are for adults. And occasionally if we have some like requests for to teach kids, we also do that, but it's usually for like one-on-one situations. Yeah.
And you create your own like curriculum for the adult learner?
Yeah, I do. So actually I can show you. But we have like we created actually I can actually show you. It's right above me. So we created these like I did like a couple of these. So I created like these curriculums to not that there are actually really good materials out there also. But I came from a background of having a specific curriculum that I follow and teach. And so just to make sure not every teacher is teaching the same thing, but there's a track for students to follow. So I am more used to that. So yeah, I created my own our own curriculum, and that includes 7 levels of for every dialect. So there's like beginners for
Hmm.
level 1 and 2, intermediate, level 3 and 4. Sorry, like there's upper beginner somewhere. So yeah, so I also do create our
So
own.
I see. I have a question. So your
Mhm.
curriculum is different from the book you saw, right? Like the learn
Mm.
it's different, right?
Yeah, that's different. Those are
Okay.
different books. Yeah.
So you said you have no like you didn't even study like language
Mm-hmm.
in university, and this is
Mm-hmm.
just literally start from friend request, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
now it kind of sparked your interest. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so cool that you don't have that background, and now you're like creating this 7 level curriculum and then writing books. Like, how did you start from like zero to wow, like creating the whole curriculum and like writing books? What's the process like?
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you asked because we just skipped a big portion
Yeah.
of the meat. But well, when I started off, I really didn't have the experience to, to teach a language, and I did it really out of, interest and passion. But I think over time, because I also felt the need to improve myself, because, sometimes I had to answer students' questions. I'm like, oh, I wonder why we use certain phrases certain times but not the other times. So then I had to read a lot of books and had to do a lot of research, and also I did go to I did study for a teaching program. So to study, there's not a lot of Cantonese learning programs, so I did them in Mandarin instead. So I participated in those programs, and also just many years of also teaching helped, because sometimes a lot of students do ask the same questions all the time, it's yeah. So but occasionally you get some really out of pocket questions, like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. But I think that also really helped me to also improve myself, like my independent thinking. Oh yeah, I want to find out too. So there's that. So I did actually study later, later on. But when I first started, I didn't have anything substantial. But I also did come from teaching, although it was not Chinese at first. I taught math. So I'm very used to teaching, and really I was just converting from math teaching to, language teaching. So yeah, are you Yao Yao and Trista, are you both
So
teach?
see, so that's
Yeah.
something you and Trista have common. She's a
Yeah.
teacher for almost 11 years. She's been teaching
Wow.
Chinese
Wow.
at
Wow.
high
Wow.
school and different age, right? Mainly kids, right, Trista?
Yeah, high school. I've taught little kids and college students, adults before, but mainly high school students at
Yeah,
a
yeah.
school
See,
setting. I don't really have
yeah.
the tutoring experiences. I mean, have a
Mhm.
couple, but not a ton.
Yeah. Do you have a preference?
Not really. I
Mhm.
think there are pros and cons. I'm not
Mhm.
sure if I feel like for tutoring sessions, it's a lot more individualized, which is good for the students. But
Mhm.
then sometimes
Yeah.
I also, but like if the students are not really driven, maybe the parents want them to learn, and
Mhm.
we're just kind of like being put together, and I'm trying
Mhm.
to because it's just one on
Mhm.
one, right? And
Mhm.
if it's heavily it's like a two-way communication. So I definitely
Mhm.
had students before who just didn't want to learn and just not wanting to be there at all, especially tutoring sessions. Usually it's outside of school hours and a lot more other
Yeah.
distractions. So I
Yeah.
think it's just I don't just different challenges. Yeah.
Okay. Well, see, my case is very different. When we do private tutoring sessions, the students are usually very driven because they
Mhm.
pay out of their own pocket to,
Yeah.
to be there. And so a little different than, younger students.
Right.
But yeah,
Because
those
what I
students.
tutor is high school
Yeah.
students and junior
Yeah.
high students.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not
Yeah.
adult. Yeah.
And
Adults will be very driven for sure. Yeah. Especially
yeah.
they are willing to carve out the time. Right. And then
Yeah.
maybe they're
Yeah.
working already. And then, so yeah, it's true
Yeah.
though. I've never tutored adults. Yeah. I've taught
Yeah.
adults in a class
Mm-hmm.
setting, but not tutored.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how long have you had the company? How many
Hmm.
years?
Mm. So I have the name Inspirlang for probably 10 years now. We're probably actually 9, 10 years. Um, but the company itself actually started during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, I was still working actually for the City University of New York. So I taught math there.
Mhm.
And so when the pandemic happened, all of us got together. I think it was late February or early March 2020. So we got together in our meeting room, and we were like, we're going to this news happening. We're going to move all our classes. I think you might not be unfamiliar with it. So we were moving all our classes to, online.
Yeah.
And every one of our teachers were like,
Same. I remember that it was a mess.
we're not equipped for that. How are we going to do that? And
Yeah.
so, but then it really did happen because we have to make it happen in a week. So then we switched to online teaching math. So I was teaching remedial math at the time. And now we're moving from in-person to Zoom teaching. And so anyone who has taught remedial classes would know that that's a huge challenge because you're no longer actually seeing the student. When you have activities, you can't do it hand on hand with them. So now I'm thinking, okay, so we have math teaching in the background. So I think you can totally do that in Chinese. So very soon after that, I started making outside podcasts or announced that, okay, everyone, if you guys want to learn Chinese, please, you can join my Zoom classes. And people did join. So that's why when I actually decided to start my own like language school to teach Chinese. Yeah.
So you have a podcast yourself?
I have actually many podcasts, so it's like I was really out of control. So when I started, it's called Learn Cantonese Daily. And I call it daily because I was actually updating every day, but then it went too crazy. Like it was impossible to do it. I think I probably did it for like 7 days in a row. I'm like, oh no, this is too much. I can't do it daily. But students could listen to it daily. So I think it's not about me, it's more about the students. So I started that, and then I have Learn Mandarin Daily, and then I have Learn Taishanese Daily. And later on I have more podcasts like Cantonese Diaspora, which is now a little bit more advanced when we only use Cantonese to talk, just Cantonese diaspora from all over the world. And so we just talk in Cantonese. So for more advanced students, it'll be like, a fun practice to listen to. And a couple other, Taishanese diaspora, and then also co-podcast with a few other professors from who also teach heritage languages, and the newest one is called Heritage by Design, and that one is in English. So yeah, it's just many podcasts in the background.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, they're all active at the moment, right? You continue to update them.
Yeah. Some of them are not updated as often, but I do.
You're active.
Yeah, I'm active. Like the last one was released this week. Yeah, this past week. Yeah. So yeah.
Is it okay? So that's a lot of hats that you're wearing. I mean, a lot of, I don't want to say project, but a lot of things you're like working on at the same time.
Yeah.
So for your language school, is it one person just you, or you have other teachers as well, and then now you have other employees?
Yeah, so we have other teachers as well. We also have other people who work like staff who work just in the back end, like editing videos, just sending out emails. So it's a lot of people involved, and also like a lot of other teachers as well. Yeah, it would be too much. I can't handle that much. I think at the beginning though, I was doing all of it. Yeah, I was teaching all the classes all 6 days in a row, and then I would be handling emails too, and I'll be doing podcasts, which I still do. But I think if I want to
sustain the business,
not even like to expand, but just stay active and be able to do the things I do, I have to have a team to help me. So, and I'm really grateful to have the team with me. Yeah.
That's amazing. So like, because you're a teacher too, and you've taught for so long, and obviously aside from teaching, you also have like entrepreneurship. Like you have started your language school and podcast and everything. So definitely many talents. And I was just curious, is there any, like teaching moments that like some like fun teaching moments or like unforgettable experience that you could share with us?
Yeah, I think not a lot of people ask me this question. I do have a lot. So I share with you one from my actual language teaching, and yeah, I'll start from that first. It's not like fun, but I think it was a pivot moment for me. So this is very early into teaching, and I was private tutoring the student, and we would meet up once a week. And so background is she was learning Cantonese to reconnect with her dad, and that they didn't really have a relationship with growing up because they were separated. So now as an adult, she reconnected with her dad, but now her dad speaks Cantonese and she speaks English, so it was a little hard. So every week I would help her with phrases, and when I got home after a lesson, I would type it out very neatly. We have Chinese characters, we have the transcription, we have the transliterations, and we have the translations. So I would type out all that and I would record it for her. And so I would send it her way. And but then as a teacher, like it's easy to tell whether a student study or not. And also I'm not a great student, so I know this really well. And so every week we gathered together, I could tell that she did not listen to the audio, and she did not, look at, study or anything. So at the beginning, I was like, a little frustrated, like, hey, what would I really do this for? Do I really need to do this? But I kept doing it. And then one day she texted me out of the blue and she said, "Oh, Jade, I just had this, like, the best moment of my life. I was talking to my dad and they weren't really talking even. They were just holding up the paper that I wrote up and then they were just reading. So she was reading the transliterations, like the phonetics. In Cantonese we call 乐拼. And then dad was reading according to the Chinese characters. So they were just studying together. They were just reading together, which is like a way that they, for them to, very special way for them to bond. Like as a kid, she never had a moment really to like, ask her dad like what her homework is, what to do with her homework. So it was just a very special moment, and she was like, "Oh, I'm so happy that I got to connect with my dad like that." So I think that was like a really pivotal moment for me, because I really have to, who cares if the students study or not? I mean, obviously it would help, but like it's really not about me, right? It's really about her and her goal. If her goal is really reconnected with her dad, like she's already doing it right here. So I think a lot of people, when they say, "Oh, I want to learn Chinese, I want to learn Mandarin, I want to learn Cantonese," whatever that is, and it's oftentimes it's not really, I think the learning process is never going to be like fun. You're still going to put work into it, right? You still have to study, put effort in. But at the end of the day, like it's the ultimate motivation, the ultimate goal that motivate us to do what we're doing. So we're never learning a language to learn a language. I mean, some scholars would do, but most everyday people, we learn it for a purpose. And I think once we know what that purpose is, it will be a lot more self-driven, and you don't really have to come up with a reason. Oh, okay, I got class today again. So, you wouldn't think like that. So it's a very important, it's also for me, for teachers, especially as a good reminder, it's really not about me or my school, what we do. It's more about like the students and, what they try to achieve.
Yeah, and that's for us parents too. We talk about this. We always need to know like our why. Why are we forcing our kids to learn Mandarin? And a lot of us have family overseas, either in Taiwan, China, and it's really, for my goal, it's really nice to see. Hey, they can communicate with my mom. Hey, they can communicate with my grandparents.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
that's just a very special a moment. And when they go back, they can go to 7-Eleven or a convenience store. They can talk to people who work there. And I think and that's my goal, right? Even though it's hard, they don't like to learn Mandarin. Like to learn Chinese, but it's like we go back to our why and our purpose. Okay, we have to keep doing it. And hopefully one day, they'll know, okay, this is valuable, knowing another language.
Yeah, one day they will know. And a lot of times, actually, a lot of the students that we teach now as adults, a lot of them have never been to Chinese schools growing up, and I think that also created like a specific kind of craving, like they've never had it. So, and now they feel ready for it. So it's almost like they've never been forced to learn it, but now they're really motivated to learn it themselves. So I get a really different student population than, a young, a teacher who teach young children would have.
Do you have more heritage learner mostly or
Oh,
less?
okay. Yeah, I'll tell you. So when you for most beginner classes, we actually have both heritage speakers and non-native speakers. It would be like a half and half to begin with. But once we actually advance to higher level classes, most of the time, not all, you of course we'll have some like non-native speakers who stick, but actually most of the time is heritage speakers who stick. And the reason is actually very simple if we think about it. Anyone could pick up any language, a level 1 at any time. Sometimes because you're traveling, self-interest, just kind of testing the water, just to see what it's about, or you live near Chinatown here, you want to know more. And it's really hard to say, like, I need to be fluent in this, and to say I need to learn, even though I don't have a lot of Cantonese friends, I'm going to master this language. It's really hard for someone to have this kind of determination, if not because you're already connected to the people. So for someone who is a heritage learner, even though the partner is not Cantonese, but they're learning it for themselves. They're always, if you're once let's say, Taiwanese American, you're always going to be a Taiwanese American. Like that, your identity wouldn't change. And even more, like your identity, you might, learn more about your identity and cultural identity later on in life. So yeah, so that's why in later classes, a lot of the times we'll have like 1 or 2 non-native speakers, and everyone else will be like a heritage speaker. Yeah.
So, just out of curiosity, from your experience, and you've taught many students, what would be their biggest purpose? Like you said, to advance in a higher level. What's the biggest purpose behind learning Mandarin or Cantonese? Would it be for work, for family, or something else?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think any purpose is a big enough purpose. Any reason is a big enough reason. It doesn't, I mean, even just learning it for my dad, learning it for my best friend, learning it, I think to me that's enough. And a lot of the times, our students would struggle between, should I learn Taishanese or Cantonese? Should I learn Mandarin or Cantonese? So, and I will always tell them, I will always ask them, what is your reason for learning? Who do you want to talk to? Because obviously, comparing Taishanese and Cantonese, there are always going to be more people speaking Cantonese, right? So, and then you compare Cantonese and Mandarin, there are definitely going to be more people speaking Mandarin. And then, but if you really go for who really speaks the most, what I can learn to speak to the most people, then why are you even learning it? Like you can speak English and you can speak with most people around you right now, and so you don't even have to learn, any other languages. Just speak English. You'll be able to communicate. Go by anywhere. But that's not really what brings us purpose, right? So what brings us purpose is what brings you joy. And if you want to learn it to talk to your grandma who has dementia,
do you have a lot of that? Do you have a lot of learner?
Yeah, I do. Not dementia specifically, but just
but like for family, I want to talk to my grandparents. That I wish I learned when I was little, but I didn't, and now I really want to. You have a lot of that.
Yeah, I do. And also just grandparents getting old, or like their parents getting old, and they just know that, like, oh, if I don't learn to speak to them now, I mean, what are the other chances that I will? So there's a lot of that, and I consider them really big. For me, they're like really big purposes, and it really fills my heart to see that, like, they're willing to do that. But I think for your question, really, like, I think one of my friends, she was learning, she was trying to improve her Mandarin before actually heading to the Olympics. She was an Olympian, and she was she's Chinese Canadian, Chinese Canadian, and she was actually playing for Team China when she headed. So I think that also, that is one purpose, but I don't compare the two purposes like, oh, like one is bigger than the other, because they're all very legitimate reasons to learn language. And she does also have connections with her grandpa in China. So so I consider them like, just they're students who want to learn Chinese.
I think that's amazing, and that's great for us parents to hear, right?
Yeah, it's very encouraging actually for this
Yes,
podcast.
it's very encouraging for us
Yeah.
because we both, like, we are parents. We know how hard it is to force a little. I mean, not. I'm sure there are some kids out there love to learn Chinese and love to go to Chinese
Yes.
school. We have some
Yeah.
podcast guests that come on, and they love
Yeah.
they love it since they're little, but I don't know, majority might not.
Yes.
So we have like, but like, we as adults, we see a purpose behind it. So hopefully, I'm sure 100% when they grow up, they will appreciate. Okay, that's why.
Yeah.
I'm so glad my parents forced me to learn Mandarin Chinese.
Yeah.
And hearing you saying that, because you have mostly adult students,
Learners.
that's very comforting for us.
Yeah. They have not given up. So even though you might not get them when they're kids, I get them as adults. So yeah.
Because I actually had this professor when I was in grad school. She's Taiwanese, her husband's Taiwanese as well, but the daughter was born and raised here in America. And she was very resistant. The daughter was resistant to learning Mandarin growing up. And then she just didn't want to learn. But when she went to college, she decided to take Mandarin Chinese. So so almost like kind of like she would be like your like not target customer like client, but just like like some people, like I guess when they're older, when they're not older, when they like they've grown up and then they want the connection with their parents. If they didn't do it then when they're little growing up, then they can always go back to like not start over, but just start. Never
Too late.
Yeah.
Never too late.
I have a question then. So you say like for the beginning level learners, is like half and half, like non-heritage and heritage. So like what were the common reasons that these non-heritage learners, they're learning Mandarin or Cantonese or
Yeah. I think for Mandarin it's a little easier to guess because Mandarin, it's like why would you learn Spanish, French? There are people around you or for practicality, for work, for travel, right? Cantonese is very specific. Like you really have to be going to Hong Kong. But actually that's not true. There are a lot of places that you can go and speak Cantonese, right? But it's still more rare. So a lot of the times, especially here in the US, I meet a lot of students who want to learn Cantonese for their partners or even best friends. Sometimes, because we're known for like, I find Chinese people are known for their hospitality also. So there are friends who visited their Chinese families all the time, but they're never able to say anything. Like these are like their best friends and parents of their best friend who cooks for them all the time. And they are not even able to like say, thank you, I had a good time. So thank you so much for your cooking. So, they're, best friends usually who would learn, but a lot of the times is also the partner. So let's say my husband and wife, their family speaks Cantonese, so I want to make sure I'll be able to speak to the in-laws just a little bit, and also our kids. Because, if my wife is speaking Cantonese to my kid and teaching Cantonese to my kid, I want to know what they're saying or I want to participate in that part. But obviously not every partner, has the time or has the interest to do that. And not every family, wants that. So, but we get the ones who really wanted to be there, for the Cantonese perspective when the kid is growing up. So a lot of them come to us because of their partners and the partners' families.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because my sister-in-law, she's from Ecuador. She speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
She married into a Taiwanese family. And the in-laws, I mean, we're always like sometimes we can't help it. Like we know that when she's around, we're supposed to speak English more so she understands.
Oh,
But we sometimes just can't help it, and we'll still
yeah.
say like Mandarin. We still talk Mandarin. So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she's learning Mandarin. She's been
Yeah.
learning Mandarin, so she's so now she can pick up little things, words
Yeah.
like so we can't really talk
Yeah.
back. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm sure this because you
Mhm.
feel left out if you're in the family that
Yeah.
speaks different
Yeah.
language, and sometimes we
Yeah.
do feel like when we go back to Taiwan,
Mhm.
and that we cannot help because a lot of family that they
Oh yeah,
really
you can't
don't
help.
they
Yeah.
just don't speak, not to be rude, but they just don't speak English, so
Mhm.
we just really have to speak. So she just
Yeah.
sits there and family
Yeah.
gathering, we all like chit-chatting, catching up with
Yeah.
family, but all in Mandarin. So that's why like
Yeah.
that's her purpose, learning
Yeah.
Mandarin, so she really wants to be included.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no. Sometimes we can try as best as we can to be inclusive
Mhm.
but after a long time you kind of fall back to your natural self and you speak whatever that comes to mind. So it's really hard. And I have my cousin, that's actually kind of also why I started teaching Taishanese. Every time we get together, so my cousin doesn't, well, she grew up in Michigan, so she doesn't really speak Taishanese at all. But every time when we get a family together and the family together in New York, and there will be like a heated discussion in Taishanese, and everyone's talking, and she told me that she would ask her mom, "Oh wait, what's everyone talking about?" Oh, my aunt would just say, "Oh, nothing important." And that would be it. So it's really hard. So I guess inclusivity. So
Yeah.
it's really the key to actually to have someone to grow the interest in someone's heart to learn the language. Yeah.
Mhm. Jade, how do you say how are you in Taishanese?
Actually, it's not that glamorous and different. You say "你好吗." So it's
Oh,
very
it's very
similar, very close,
similar
very similar,
with,
but not all the cases though.
how about
So
thank
but
you? 谢谢. How do you say it?
唔該.
Okay, so that's different.
Yeah,
Gui.
that's closer to Cantonese.
Oh,
So
it is closer
actually,
to Cantonese.
yeah.
Are
So
they
it's
very
actually
similar?
uh they're similar, but they're not mutually intelligible.
So
So
if
like
I know Cantonese, can I pick up Taishanese very fast, like very easily? Or,
uh you can pick up by understanding,
but
like
saying.
easier. Saying is very different because you're always going to fall back to speaking Cantonese.
Mm.
So but listening, it will help if if you study and you'll be. So actually we got a lot of students who work in the medical field because they want to understand what their patients are saying. And like if you're a therapist, you're a pharmacist, doctor, nurse,
Mhm.
they try to understand the patients, where does it hurt, a first responder also. So there's a lot, there's different people learning for different purposes, and it always surprises me. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
But I think that's
Mhm.
very inspiring to see people actually they're doing more. I mean, they don't have to learn a
Yeah.
new language
Yeah.
for their job. If they're a doctor, nurse, first
Yeah.
responder, they just, but they actually want. I mean, that's
They
so
care.
much love in the world, right? They
Yeah.
care so much. I want to learn a new language.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's
Extra
I
work, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's a really good way to say it. I've never thought about it that way. And so maybe that's why I really like what I'm doing so much. That's because people who come to us, they're usually the ones who really care and really want to put the extra effort, give the extra step to help other people. So yeah, they don't really need that to qualify for their job. And but if they do, it would help and benefit their patients, people they
They're doing
interact
it
with.
out of love, out of
Yeah.
care,
Okay. Yeah.
basically.
Our students are
Yeah.
full of love. That's to say it.
I think it's so cool, Jay. Like you
Hmm.
see, I mean, you have so many stories behind learning a language. I mean, you
Yeah.
see a lot of
Yeah.
that, especially for like adults. I'm sure children's
Hmm.
maybe probably less because like my mom wants me to do it, right? But I
Yeah.
feel like for you, having an adult
Yeah.
learner, there's so many story
Hmm.
behind, heartwarming story behind. Hey, why do you want to learn Mandarin? Or why do you want to learn Cantonese?
Maybe I should write this into another book. Okay.
Wait,
That's a
how
good
about another book
inspiration.
idea? Yeah.
Yeah, another book idea.
Inspiring, and I think it's
Yeah.
something you should ask every student. I'm sure you do. Like ask the
Yeah.
student, hey, why do you want to learn this language? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you get tons of story out of each one of them. And everybody have different
Yeah.
purpose. And like you said, not one is less or more than the other, but they're
Yeah, yeah.
all all very important and inspiring.
Yeah. So, you know what? I'll put the idea down after this.
There's a next book idea.
Yeah, when I publish it, I'll come back here and let you guys know.
Yes.
So let's post it. So now I'm gonna shift a little bit. Like, wanna share about your personal journey, like language journey too. Like, because came here at age 13, you had to learn English, right? I mean, I'm not sure from zero, but like learning language, and then I don't know if the like English heavy part kind of like you have you ever drifted apart from your native language, and then I know Cantonese you just learned from TV drama shows. Just kind of share with us about like when you first came to the States, and then like that journey, just like internally.
Yeah, for sure. So like I said before, I was, first in Michigan, and there was not, I was the first Chinese, heritage, Chinese American student in this school. And it was very white suburban, and so, but everyone was really friendly and they loved having me and they really included me. They tried all they could. And so even though like sometimes I just, I wasn't really starting from zero in English, but there's not much. So I could listen, I could understand, some very basic phrases like, oh, where she come from, how old is she, that, like very basic sentences. So it was as well pretty much zero, but like 1 out of 10 probably. So and then all the students were really friendly, and there are parts in class because I'll in America comparing to China, it's very hands-on, our classroom activities. So I remember we were learning about chromosome, I think, and people were making it, and I'm not used to this kind of learning environment at all. And so I have no idea what's everyone doing, and I was not the most active. I just sat there and watched what everyone was doing. And classmates would come over and they would help me. They were like, okay, this is how you do it. And then they would, okay, do you understand? And I was like, no. And then they would help me to fill out like some papers too. So it was really friendly environment. And once we came to New York, it got a little different, and I had to learn to be a little more independent because, I mean, there was nothing like Michigan. I was very spoiled in Michigan, and here I was just, I have to learn how to do everything on my own. But because I have a pretty like a stronger foundation from Michigan, I was more okay in New York comparing to other students who started off in New York, because there are a lot of Chinese communities in New York. So I was learning English pretty, fast enough that when I was in high school, I was in ESL class. But because again, I came from China, where it's a lot more competitive. So naturally, in class, I'm gonna do more than what my other classmates do because I just have so much time. Like I didn't have to do homework until 12 a.m. So but there was just so much time after we get home. So naturally I prepare a little more for class. And when I was in ninth grade, this is a very particular story. So my teacher, my ESL teacher asked me if I wanted to participate. Because the week before we did like a debate, and this week she asked me if I wanted to participate or compete in a New York City public speaking contest. And I was like, yeah, sure. And so she freaked out, and she was like, oh no, you don't have to get back to me now. You can think about it and come back and tell me tomorrow. And so I went back home, and then I talked to my mom, and my mom was like, okay, yeah, sure, you're going to do it. So the next day I went back to school, and so I told my teacher. And the teacher actually became a really close friend now. We have kept in touch. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do it. And actually in my head, I did not know at all what I said yes to. I just knew I was going to do something. But also I felt like I had the time, so why not? So this actually really tracks my whole personality. Like I just did things without thinking much. Like, oh, my friends want to learn Cantonese. Okay, I'll teach them. Like, okay, like what's such a big deal about it? I mean, it's a speaking contest.
That's
Okay,
a really good quality. Just don't think too much. Just do it.
just do it. So then I did it, and so our goal. So because this is like a pretty big New York City public speaking contest, my teacher and we had a big goal for me to get into the final. That's like our big goal, and even that is really hard because there are so many. Every other student that participated is a native speaker, and you need really good speech, and they have teachers coaching. I mean, I have also had my really great teacher coaching me, but still it's a very precious experience for
competitive.
Yeah, for a student who's been to the States for 2 years and who is still struggling to learn English. So that really changed me because I think with hard work and during the process, I actually had to work on my English a lot. And that's why people now, like, they would comment, oh, how do you learn Chinese so well? And I'm like, okay, I was born and raised, but it was English that I had to, put a lot of effort in. So I couldn't say like the difference between 3 and 3 at the time. So I even spent time, other students are already working on their speeches and I'm still practicing, okay,
like the accent.
3. Yeah. Not even accent, but like just making sure people don't
like the
mistake.
pronounce.
Yeah. You want to have people to understand you instead of like, what did she say? Yeah. Enunciation. So yeah, I worked on that as well. So it was just a great experience. It was one of the biggest. So we did actually get into the final. So it was like one of the yeah. So it was like really, it was one of the happiest day in my life. It really proved that like if you put in effort and you could just you could do anything in life.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. So
that's inspiring. For someone just came to the state for 2 years and made it to finals and on public speaking compared to all the native speakers, crazy.
Yeah, I think no one really believed it, and I'm like, okay, I thought I was lying, but
I mean that's just really showing your character trait. Like how you work hard and you don't give up.
Yeah, but I also like to say that like I think my teacher also really like cares so much, and I'm so blessed and grateful that I've always met people who cared more than just their job. My teacher didn't have to do that. She is not part of her job. She stayed after school to coach me, and she didn't get paid or anything for any part of that. But she enjoyed it and she really wanted to help me. So yeah, it's just I'm very lucky and blessed.
Well, I think now you are paying back too. You care so much about your students, and so it's a ripple effect.
Yeah, hopefully it'll ripple to many other people as well.
Can you share your information, like your school and where can people find you and your books, everything? And I'll make sure to link everything in our show notes so people can find you.
Yeah. So our website is very straightforward. It's just inspirlang.com, INSPIRLANG. When I first started it, I went to business school actually. So I knew that I wanted to trademark a name that's unique. So I came up with my own name. Can you guess what it would stand for? What word it would? Inspirlang. So it stands for inspiring languages. Yeah.
Because that's 2 separate words. You put it together.
Yeah, I put it together because I'm like, I'm not going to mess with the trademarks. I'm going to have my own thing, and it's just going to be one word, and I don't have to file 2 words. So, so I have the idea in my head from a long time ago. I wasn't thinking that it would become a business, but it was. I don't know. I just did it.
So you're like meant to do this.
That's the business.
Can they request teachers like, hey, I want Jay to be my teacher? Or how does that work when they look?
So we have on our website, inspirlang.com, we have different group classes. And the name of the teacher is shown, so you can choose whatever class that works for your level, that's appropriate for your level. But a lot of the times, we have some teachers some students request other teachers, but they don't really request. You can just show on the list who's teaching what, so you can sign up for that. But I think we all teach because I train all of our teachers, and so we all use the same curriculum, so it's not really that different. So yeah, students usually just choose the corresponding level so they really don't go by the teacher names. But if it's private tutoring, then they could request. They can make a request, or I would help them to match with the teacher that I think would be most helpful for their learning, and also schedule wise, right? But but I think sometimes if you request a name, I'll be a little suspicious. Like, why? Well, usually for like new students, I'll be like, how do you know about this teacher or that teacher? Because even for me, they're not the same, but like we teach, very similar styles. So I'll be a little suspicious. Why do you want? So it's better that you don't say a name, and I'll help you to match the one that would work best. Yeah.
So I was just saying that because maybe after this podcast, people love you, and then it's like, hey, I want Jay to be my teacher.
Yeah, just be careful. I'll be really suspecting why.
I really appreciate you coming on, and it's such a great conversation. You're so generous, and I love your passion of teaching. And
thank you.
You have, you're very inspiring, especially your story on your public speaking contest. When you were younger and you were only here for 2 years, it takes a lot of courage. And I think you are a wonderful teacher. Like, you meant to do this, to share all this language with all your students, and more students to come.
Thank you. Same for you guys. You're doing very different. You're starting it from, you're really sowing the seed right now. So you will, I appreciate what you guys are doing. You're doing what I cannot do. Like, I cannot teach young children. So
well, when they grow up, we will send them your way.
Okay. That would do. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me too. It's such a wonderful conversation. I get to talk about things I don't usually talk about. No one would ask me, like, how was it for me learning English? No, people were just like, how do you teach Chinese? Yeah. So I'm glad you asked. I always love sharing that.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, sure.
We'll talk later. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you'll get notification when we have a new episode. And make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. You can go to our show note to find the link. And if you love this episode, make sure you share with a friend and bring them to our community. And if you enjoy our podcast, please make sure you leave a review. Your review will mean so much to us. It will really help me and Trista keep going. All right, see you guys next week. Bye-bye.